So I got into dentistry because my mother worked for an orthodontist, and she worked for the same man for 40 years. From the time I was in 4th grade till the day I had to call him because my mother had Alzheimer's and say, "Will you please retire my mom because she's so stressed out about working for you." So, that was really how I got into dentistry. It's really all I knew. And so when I decided that I was going to go to college, my parents couldn't afford to send me, so I had to work my way through school, and the only thing I knew to do was to work for an orthodontist, because my mother literally used to pull my rear end out of bed in the summers from about the age of 13 until I graduated from high school, and she made me go to work with her in the summers. I hated her for it, like teenagers will do, but I did learn a skill. And so when I decided I wanted to go to college, I knew that I could work for an orthodontist, and it just so happened that her boss had a friend in Bryan College Station, and I was able to get on with his office. And so what I did was I structured my school schedule around a work schedule that would allow me to pay for school while, I was still working. And I wasn't going to be a dentist. I was actually going to school to become a psychologist. And I was into my second year, first part of my third year, and one day the light bulb just went on and said, I really ought to do this for a living. So I went to my boss, a gentleman named Tom King, just a wonderful, wonderful mentor and friend, and I said, "Dr. King, I think I want to be a dentist." And he said, "Pam, I think you need to be a brain surgeon." And he was really the first person who ever told me that he thought I was really bright and encouraged me to pursue whatever I wanted to do. So that's how I decided to go to dental school. And so then I just really ramped up my educational background, which was already strong in science, because at Texas A&M you had the opportunity to get either a BA or a BS in psychology, and I was on a Bachelor of Science route because I liked science. So I decided to then go to dental school, get my requirements under my belt in a very short period of time, and apply. And so I ended up applying to all the schools in Texas, got accepted to all the schools in Texas, and decided to come to San Antonio. And I've been in San Antonio since 1985. And then, of course, my academic travels were still complicated by the fact that, I was paying for everything on my own. So I decided to work while I was in dental school, and I started working a variety of jobs. I worked for a forensic dentist, a really world-famous forensic dentist. Part of the time I was here at UT Health Science Center, and then eventually transferred out of that department and into a basic science department, where I worked for a very, very respected basic scientist named Dr. David Carnes. And Dr. Carnes, PhD in cellular structural biology, and was just a really great mentor, and I got in his lab and started doing basic science research with him. And he was the person who said to me, "You're not going to be a drill and fill dentist, are you?" And I said, "Well, why not?" And he said, "Because you're too good a scientist." And so he was really the person who encouraged me to go into the surgical sciences, because he felt like that I would excel at that. And so I decided then to specialize in perio. So, every step of the way there was always someone there mentoring or advising or seeing in me what I didn't even recognize in myself. And I'm really grateful to them for that, and my journey was made better by it. So, now when I find myself, currently I'm mentoring 2 young women who want to be dentists. I'll never forget, the first one came to me and she wanted to work for me because she really wanted to be a dental hygienist, which is a very awesome career. And when my days are really hard as a surgeon, I think, you know, I should have been a hygienist. It would have been a much easier career for me. But it's not. I mean, it has its own challenges. But I said to her, you know, why are you going to be a hygienist? Why don't you be a dentist? And she just really, you know, she couldn't even wrap her brain around that because she's on her own. She doesn't have financial backing. And so I told her the story that I just told you, and now she's going to go to dental school because she sees in someone very much like herself. She can, you know, she can see that it's possible. So it's really nice to try to push people to be their best, and I think that that's what Dr. King did for me, and that's what Dr. Carnes did for me, and I'm just going to pay it forward. Yeah, so the Diplomate status in any specialty, when you're in your residency training, you're either in a residency program where they value that and they train you to obtain Diplomate status, or you're in a secondary situation, you know. And I happened to study underneath a gentleman named Jim Melanick, who came out of the military. He was in the Navy, and it was all about every graduate he had. He absolutely insisted that you take the board. And the reality is after you leave residency, he has no control over that, but there's not a single one of his residents who ever wanted to disappoint him. So what you have to do to become a Diplomate is you pass 2 different examinations. There's basically a book exam where you have to study and answer test questions, and then there's an oral exam where you sit in front of 3 board certified periodontists and present cases to them and that you've done, surgeries you've done, and they basically grill you for 2 days. And if you pass, you pass. Then you become a Diplomate. And then you have to maintain that status by continuing education, and then every few years you have to recertify, so you have to take additional examinations. So the Diplomate status is a very well-respected status. It doesn't really change who you are as a doctor. You can easily be a very excellent surgeon and not be a board-certified periodontist. But what board certification says about you is you have stood before your peers and proven yourself to be worthy of Diplomate status. So it's something, it's like a little feather in your cap. People are not going to question that you have the academic, and not only academic but actual hand skills, because you do have to present your surgeries in front of those people to be judged. You know, a lot in dentistry, and when you go into clinical practice, you know, a lot of people really seek out to become very well known. I'm probably most known for what I've given back to dentistry, in that really I'm kind of a past president of just about almost everything you can do on a local level, on a state level, and then also in a lot of national arenas, with the American Dental Association, with the American Academy of Perio. I've done a lot of work on committees with those groups. I made a personal decision not to pursue the highest ranks of those organizations just because of the personal sacrifices that it takes away from a family and practice. And I really always been about my patients and really wanted to do most of my impact to be chairside, just day to day in the trenches with patients. I do speak, I lecture both locally and statewide, and also nationally on the topics of hygiene and periodontics and bone grafting, and so all of those speaking engagements are really just an offshoot of trying to share the knowledge that I've gained and help other people learn more about periodontics and what periodontics can do for their patients.